Light a candle in the darkness, dance around under the harvest moon. Did you know that you can make things happen with just a little bit of magic? Let them think that you are unhinged. Let them take a stab and hunt a witch like you.
So, what were you telling me about the woods on the property?
I was telling you it was this massive acres after acres of grass and, just open land with lush green grass and trees. And it was so much nature and land that people would just often just walk off the property and go in all angles out into the wooded areas and just disappear. And one time me and my guy went for a walk and we just enjoyed the open land and did whatever we want. I mean, you can be gone forever and a day and they wouldn't even send the law.
So, there were other people going there to, how can we put this? Do the mattress mambo?
Exactly.
And
yeah.
you were telling me that there were some sexual assaults?
Yes, there were people getting raped on the property as well. Yes.
By other patients or by employees or both?
Probably all the above as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. So, and you were talking about the time that you just said heck with it and you just left the property?
Yes, I was talking about an incident before about how I had got tired of being there. And it's such an open area. You could just walk out the door. Nobody would know you were gone. I went off the property because it's winding sidewalks, like when you go to a nature park like that, with rolling grass and trees. So I walked all the way up to the dirt gravel road. And the property sits several acres back from the main road. And I thought it was going to be this massive highway. So by the time I reached the dirt road, I thought I was going to be on this big old highway. Because when you're off on the property, sometimes you can hear semis zooming by as if they was speeding on the highway. And so I finally arrived and I said, I'm tired of being on this property. I'm going to hitchhike. So I put my thumb up to get a ride. And next thing I know, nobody's picking me up. They're just going by. They're like, zoom, zooming by.
And yeah, it's primarily a white town and you're not white.
Yeah, and they're looking at me like, we're going to pick up this African-American lady. No, it's not happening. So finally, after about the sixth car, I said, I don't think anybody's going to pick me up. So next thing I know, I'm like, okay. So I lay down. I guess I was having a bad experience. I think it was a bad energy around me. I really do. I believe that with all my heart. And so I lay down on this gravel road, this wide gravel road. Next thing I know, cars are driving by, like they're on the highway. And then semis are like, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, just hit me and kill me. So finally, like after the fourth semi, they're like going on opposite sides of me, and I'm just stretched out on the road as if I'm stretched out on a table or a gurney, and they're just driving past me like I'm a stick in the road. And so finally, after so many minutes, it starts lightning and bolts of thunder and lightning are up in the sky, and it starts pouring rain on me. I'm like, really? And I'm asking, the guy upstairs, really, are you for real, guy? And so finally, after so many minutes, I'm soaked in rain and it's lightning and thundering over my head of all places. And then finally, somebody pulls up and I see these wheels coming toward me, and I'm still laying on the ground, and I'm like, are you serious? And it's the people coming to get me where I had been staying, and they said, hi, Kay. They said, we heard that you were out here, and some people that you went to church with said they saw you laying out on the road. And so they come and they take me in, check my vitals, and I go in. And from that day on, I had realized even I had some bad energy around me. I believe it was bad spirits affecting my thinking. I know it was. And that's just one of the experiences I had being cooped up on that land and in that property. And that's just one of the weird experiences I've had.
Okay, stop. You think, but when you were there, did you know the history of the place at all?
No, I could feel it. I didn't need to know it. I could feel it and sense it.
Well, I know that was before you lost all your sight, because you had sight at the time, right?
That's what I'm saying. I could feel it and sense it. And when nightfall would hit, I would always feel it.
But you never saw anything?
No, I could just sense it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because...
And when I was alone, and I'll tell you another part when you're ready to record more.
I've been recording, but go ahead.
Okay. Now, there was another incident I experienced when my roommates would go out of the room and be in other parts of the property or out of the building. I would think that someone was coming in my room to sit or go. You had to open the door to the bedroom, and there was a little hallway with bathroom doors. You know how bedrooms have a hall? Mm-hmm. And there's a little step in between the bathroom and the other hallway. It was like that. And I would have somebody open the door, come in, open the other door that goes out to the mini hall where the bathroom's on the other side, where there's doors. And I would think somebody was going to the bathroom. A lot of times they would have come in the room, go to the bathroom. I'd go in there and there was nobody in there. And I would think that my roommate was coming in to use the bathroom. And there wasn't even nobody in there.
So you never heard anything or anything like that?
I heard that, but I didn't see it.
But I mean, that's the only thing, though, that you heard.
Yeah, so audibly, sometimes you could experience things that aren't really happening either.
Right, because like I said before, we've both, I didn't know I was empathic at the time, but I do now. But you never like heard people speaking or whispering or anything like that.
No, I could just sense it. There's different levels. There's the audible, there's the sight, there's the mental, and sometimes you could feel the breeze or the pushing of the force of gravity, different things like that. The shoving of a hand, or, like I said, wind or air passing past you. Or just unexplainable emptiness
touched.
Or loneliness.
You were never like touched or anything like that.
No, but I always sense this unshakable, uncanny, unmovable sense of loneliness and emptiness and just void throughout the building. Yes.
I don't know before. The place had closed in 1968, when they closed down the tuberculosis part. I don't know how many people died there before it became what you know as Lee Allen Bryant.
Yes, and like I said, there was 5 floors, and I resided on the 2nd floor. But as higher you got up, the more awkward and uncomfortable it would feel. And like I said, you got stuck in that elevator. It was very uncomfortable and awkward spiritually.
So you were on the 2nd floor. So what, the men were on the 3rd floor?
No, they were all mixed together, oddly enough. And they had rules where you couldn't do anything, with a guy, or you couldn't be in a relationship sexually. But people would just do whatever they want, how they wanted.
So basically you guys weren't separated. There wasn't one floor for the men and one floor for the women.
Yeah, they were separated. The women had the room with the women. But if you were around a guy, you could pretty much call your own shots.
But what I'm saying is, though, like the women weren't on one floor and the men weren't on another floor.
Yeah,
they weren't They weren't separated like that.
Not like that. But as far as roommates, yes.
Okay, so basically you could be down the hall from a room full of men, basically.
Well, now that you say it, I think you're right. Yeah, the women were on one floor, the men were on the other.
Okay.
Yes,
that's where I was like really confused. And
yeah, you're right.
So the 3rd floor was what, the men?
No, I was on the second floor. The first floor was the dining room and other rooms. Second
Like the
floor was
community room, the
yeah,
women.
and then the third floor, and then the fourth floor. I
Well,
think it was every other floor.
what was the third floor?
I'm not sure.
You never went up there?
I never went up there because the higher up I went, the more awkward I felt, and I always felt like someone was waiting in the shadows to attack me sexually or some
Yeah,
type of weird
the
spiritual
housekeeper
experience.
had said something about that, and she said she ran out of there. They thought it was a resident who didn't go downstairs when he was supposed to, so that they could clean the rooms. So it's
Right.
funny that you would say that. It sounds like you're
Yeah.
having the same experience as the
Yeah,
housekeeper.
I was afraid to venture out too far,
Stop.
and when
So, so you don't know what was on the third floor, but you
I
had to
never
go.
ventured out that far, I was too uncomfortable. You know how that gut feeling in your
Right.
being lets you know
But you had
something's
to
not
go to the
right?
fourth floor to do your laundry.
I went to the fourth floor. I was too scared to go on the fifth, and if I ever did go on the fifth, it was very rare. And like I said, there was this one end of the hall where the washer and dryer was. Each end had its own washer and dryer area, but I went on this one end, and I always felt so uncomfortable. I could not wait with every fiber of my being to get away from that area and just get out of there. Most of the time, I would do it on the fourth floor, but the fifth floor, if I had to do it there, I didn't want to.
Were you there for any kind of fights between patients or any violence?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and talk about that.
A lot of times if they fought, they have this new rule now. They can't restrain you. So if you get too violent in a situation like that, they have to call the law and have them arrest you and detain you or decide what they're going to do with you.
So
whether they'll take you to a local psych hospital or whether they'll put you in jail.
So if you got in a fight on the property when you were there, they just called the police and the police
They
came
just
and
call the
took you?
law and they would take care of it. Even now in state hospital or psych clinics, if you get too violent, they usually have the law assist because they got new laws where they can't do too much to detain you or, you know, restrain you. There's only so many hours or minutes they can restrain an individual before it's considered cruel and unusual.
They would put them in cages and things and make them lay for so many hours. I know
Right.
that you could only be restrained for so many hours at a time.
Right.
You know, because I was a CNA and
Yeah. Now all that's illegal. They don't even use straitjackets anymore. It's called cruel and unusual. And they used to have something called a jerry chair.
Yeah.
And you know, they would tie people to those and do unusual things with people with those. A lot of that stuff. Yeah, it's just old.
As far as you know, no one when you were there was seriously hurt or anything.
Not that I was aware of, but I think there might have been some incidents.
But if there were, you weren't allowed. You guys weren't allowed to talk about what was going on with each other.
It would affect your treatment plan. It would go against your treatment eval, and it just wasn't recommended. No.
Unless you guys went off the property and talked. And
or you talked amongst yourselves and not the staff.
Off the property where the staff wouldn't hear you.
Yeah, exactly. And they picked what you watched on TV. You could have a TV in your room. It was more laid back than your traditional psych place at Lee Allen. But they kind of monitor what you watched. It wasn't really recommended that you watch like violent murder movies or anything like that.
Did they try to control what music you listened to too, I bet?
Yeah, they didn't want real bad negative rap, violent music like that, or heavy metal, acid rock, or anything like that. So, but it wasn't too restricted.
Okay, stop.
Not too. What was that?
That was me hitting the record button. So, you didn't find out the history of the place till after you got home and your parents had found out and told you what all... Or you didn't know?
Actually, like when I moved to Evansville to that facility, that's when my friend that I'm living in the town with now had told me that my ex had hung himself, that Ben had done that.
So you didn't know anything, about the history of that property until years later, and then when I talked to you.
Yeah, they called me and told me while I was still doing my time, but then, like, toward the end, they kept trying to tell me that Ben was gone, and for years I denied it. And so, yeah, they had to show me clippings to show me that he was gone, and then that's when I had to accept it. Yeah.
And then you didn't deal with that very well, which is understandable.
It's still hard for me to deal with it even now, and it's been
20 years? 2006.
Yeah. Yep.
Almost 20 years.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it happened 2004, 2005.
I was thinking 2006. I don't know why the 6 keeps popping in my head.
Yep.
Well, if you would like, we could come back another time and have a conversation, because I know that you want your story to be told, and I know you're wanting to write a book about your experiences with Indiana and the mental health and the way that the disabled were treated.
Yes.
Because
I am working on an autobiography, yes.
Yes, and this place hasn't been closed but 10 years, and there's a lot of paranormal investigations, and people aren't talking about the human side of it, which is what bothers me. But if you'd like, I can come back and we can talk about Evansville.
That'll be great.
Another time.
Yes.
All right. Well, let me stop the video.